Hello everyone, here I am in my ServiceNow instance, and what we want to achieve is we want an alert to be received in Transposit whenever an incident is created in ServiceNow. In the ServiceNow community you will learn that a great place to learn about using webhooks in ServiceNow is to go to the Transposit blog, where a complete end-to-end scenario is provided. How to create a business rule in ServiceNow, which is how you work with webhooks in ServiceNow. And whenever a new incident is created, so an addition, an insertion is made into the incident table, the code provided here will expose the relevant information about the incident to whichever technology is making use of the webhook that you have defined within that code. So we start by creating a new business rule as defined in the Transposit blog. We call it Transposit. We make sure that we work with the incident table, because after an insertion is made into that table, we want the information about that incident to be exposed. And that is what that code is for. It has a placeholder for the webhook endpoint URL, which is what we're now going to create in Transposit. So in Transposit, we create a new webhook, and as soon as we've given it a name, we will find that we immediately have an endpoint URL. And that endpoint URL we can copy from here, and we then paste in that placeholder within the business rule in ServiceNow. We submit, which means we have now created the business rule, and now we're going to make an insertion in the incident table, which you do by creating a new incident. So we create a new incident in ServiceNow, we give it a name, Hello Transposit from ServiceNow, and notice that there are different urgencies that you can assign, 1, 2, or 3, which will become important later once you work with the alert in Transposit. We submit the incident. Now we go back to Transposit, and that payload that has now been sent from ServiceNow, we can use, as you can see here, we can actually import it, we can fetch that payload and use it by clicking the plus icons in the payload to extract from it the parts that are most useful to us in defining the alert. So we say that the title is defined by the short description in the payload, and we map the urgency from the payload to the equivalent priority settings in the Transposit alert. In other words, one doesn't need to parse the payload in any way. The tools are provided directly in Transposit for doing that. Having done that, we now have our webhook settings completed. We save it, and we go over again to ServiceNow. Of course, we could set paging rules. You can come back to that later. But what's important now is that we want to see an alert. So we create another incident, so another insertion into the incident table in ServiceNow, which will expose that incident's information via the webhook. And because of how we've set up the payload in Transposit, we will see the alert appear, as you can see right here. However, of course, not all alerts are equal. Some have a higher priority, and we might want to do some special things based on that priority. So let's get our on-call information from xMatters whenever we have a high priority incident from ServiceNow. And there are different automations available, including for xMatters. And here we are now setting up our authentication to our xMatters instance, and here you can see my xMatters instance. There is one group called OnCall. It has one person within it, which is myself, and we're now going to put the base URL in there, and we're going to authenticate. We run the test. So we're just checking out that automation to see whether it works and whether the authentication works. We're not polluting our audit trail in any way by creating dummy incidents. What we next want to do is create an incident type specifically for our high priority ServiceNow incidents. And that will be created whenever a high priority incident comes in from ServiceNow. And in that case, an automated script will run, and that automated script will be our xMatters on-call script. We select it here, we attach it, nothing needs to be configured. We have our integration set up. We've now created a specific type of incident for high priority ServiceNow incidents that will automatically give us access to our on-call. And we create a rule because, as stated, not all alerts are equal. We specify that for the critical priority, that specific ServiceNow high priority incident type will be used to create a new incident. We put this right at the top. You can see we can do if else conditional here to determine which webhook is applied when to create which incident. And again, we create an incident in ServiceNow. We send our final alert to Transposit. We make it high priority. And once this is done and we return now to Transposit, what we will see is that not only is there an alert, but there's also an incident now because this is a high priority alert, and we can see that automatically a script is run at startup. And as we saw when we were testing that script, we provide our group, and then we can see who is on call for our high priority incidents. So we have now connected ServiceNow to xMatters via Transposit.